two. Cut.
Take two.
Cut.
I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people. All right, follow me with this.
But they've been using their power to obstruct and stop justice from taking place.
You want to pray us out?
I do.
We'll pray for Tina. And let's have conversations about what truth is. Hey, so welcome back. It's been a busy couple days for me. So much so I haven't gotten a haircut, and I don't know if I'm planning on getting one. I think I'm just going to grow my hair out, and it might be good. We'll see. What I have left. That way I can pretend I have more hair than I do. So let's get into it. What we're going to talk about has not been covered by the mainstream media. None of it. I went on social media and I said, I have the biggest story I think I've ever had in front of me. And that's including the stuff with Dominion and Eric Coomer and here's how they stole the election. And you know you're over the target when people are like taking shots at you and you're like, okay, block, next. Okay, block, next. And so I'm going to address this. I'll tell you this. I don't need to be relevant. I don't need to be relevant. I got a beautiful family. I got beautiful kids. I got a beautiful wife. I drive a cool car. I don't have to worry about where my meals come from. You know, I get attacked by feckless weaklings who would never say any of this stuff to my face, right? The keyboard warriors. So I'm good. Like I don't need to be relevant. That's why I fight. I fight because I don't have to. Like there's nothing, I do this podcast so that I can give people information and give them a sense of what needs to happen without all the rhetoric or the negotiating with the ridiculous. I don't have to do any of those things. I want to put this up here. This is really important because, so no, I don't care. Somebody said, Joe, hey, this person said this thing about you. I don't care. I could care less. But let's talk about the stories that are happening right now. And let's start here. Colombian mercenaries are in demand on the front lines in Ukraine. And this goes, ex-soldiers are fighting alongside Ukrainian forces against Russia. And it talks about the slums of Ptorian, home to many of the Colombians who are going to fight for Kiev. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because this has been going on. This was first announced. Go down a little bit, or up a little bit. Sorry. Yeah, this was on July 8th, 2025. So it was just getting ex-mercenaries from Colombia, right? You just get them. They recruited them from different countries. So Ukraine is creating cannon fodder for the front lines. So instead of killing what is, frankly, they're running out of people. They've lost over 50% of their population over the last 7-8 years. And now, though, it's not just people that are ex-military from Colombia. Now they have cartels. So I want to show you that this was an interesting Telegram channel is reporting the fact that Colombian mercenaries are being used to fight the war in Ukraine. So let me read this to you. According to my information, Latin American cartels purchasing weapons from the officials of the armed forces of Ukraine undertake the obligation, in addition to money, to send their fighters to Ukraine. Thus, more than 2,000 Colombian mercenaries linked to the cartels have arrived here recently. Their main task is training in assault operations and the use of drones. And that's, by the way, one of the spokespeople, generals for Ukraine. Now, I didn't know anything about this. I don't think any of you knew about it. So let's go back in time to Fast and Furious with Eric Holder and Obama. And we had guns that were sold in the United States, sold down to Mexico, that were sold to cartel members. It was their way of trying to figure out where the guns ended up, that were then used on U.S. soil in order to kill Americans. Now, I want to just look at why this is such a big story. Like, why would this be such a big story? If you look at Osama bin Laden and you go back in history of he was trained and armed by the U.S. government. The training camps for Osama bin Laden and some of the Taliban forces, we trained him. And it turned into one of the most prolific terrorist organizations in the world. Like it or not, and they could have a legitimate grievance or not, they were a force to be reckoned with, and we trained them. Now, fast forward to what happened in Fast and Furious, fast forward to what we've done with the DEA and putting drugs on the streets in our own cities in the United States. We've done more harm to people in our own country by turning the other way. And now you have cartels in Colombia that are being trained on how to use drones. And if you've seen any of the videos that are out there, it's really hard to square that. They're going to take, and I, I was on a interview with RT, and I go, look, the issue is that this is going to become a massive problem for the United States. People in South and Central America that are a part of the cartels are pissed off that the border's closed, that they're cutting out fentanyl use or fentanyl streams into the United States, that they're stopping human trafficking. They're cutting off the lifeline to how they make billions of dollars every year. Now, those people are going to be fighting over in Ukraine. They bought weapons from Ukraine. Like Ukraine got weapons from us and other U.S.-based companies. Then they went and sold those to the cartels down in Colombia. What do you think is going to happen in 2, 3, 4 years? What do you think is going to happen when they decide to bring those guns up and use those against Americans? And how about the drone technology of flying the drones over our own borders and using them as detonated devices, which is what they use in Ukraine? And they're training these people a continent away and saying, listen, we'll give you access to all of our weaponry. You just have to come fight for us. And so, yeah, a certain portion of them are irrelevant. They're irrelevant. We have Matt. Let's bring Matt in. So, Matt, we're talking. We're good. We're talking about Ukraine. What happened to your eye? You getting a fight?
Let me just put it this way. If you haven't gone mountain biking in over a year, don't try a very advanced trail. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to explain the details, but yeah, I'll put it. It definitely is hurting a lot right now. My eye's not moving super well, but it is what it is.
Well, you kept your eyeball, so it's all good. All good. Good in the hood.
Yeah, I'm doing better than a soldier in Ukraine right now. So as long as I can say that, it's a good day.
We're talking about the fact that we've taken cartel members in Colombia. They've sold weapons from Ukraine to Colombia in exchange for people coming to Ukraine and fighting for Ukraine on the front lines. So you have cannon fodder on one side, and then you have this share of intelligence of how they're using drones, how they're using weaponry, and they're sending those people back to Colombia to then share that with the cartels so they can be used against the American people. So we're funding Ukraine. Ukraine then sells that weaponry and the technology to Colombia, to cartels, who then comes back and uses that to go against the United States on our own soil.
Yeah, it's not only disgusting, but it shows you the depravity of Zelensky. I mean, everyone's seen the videos where they go and they grab the fathers who are 20, 30 years old. They force them into the van and they make them go fight on the front lines. 99% of them are dead within the first week after they start fighting. 99%. You do not survive being on the front lines in this war. It is essentially impossible. So what is the point then of sending people to go fight on the front lines? Have we seen some big territorial change? Does Russia now have control over Ukraine? Not really. I mean, they've essentially taken control over the regions that they wanted. They
took what they wanted.
I mean, they have that, and that was inevitably going to happen. They have it now. Ukraine doesn't have it anymore. The only thing that has been accomplished from this is Zelensky making millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars by some estimates that is untraceable, untrackable in foreign accounts, in crypto, and other places that you're never going to find it. He's going to live a luxurious lifestyle for the rest of his life. It was all a show. It was all fake. He was part of the elite Hollywood system from the beginning. The entire show they did was overfunded compared to the revenue it brought in, and it was done with the sole mission of putting him in the presidency in order to cause this war to happen. So what we've seen as a result since then is only building up the power that they wanted in place. It's taking away Russia's ammunition, even though Russia isn't really a true enemy of ours, but we're going to pretend they are. And if we pretend they are, then they actually will be in a sense. So that's what's happening. I mean, it's very disturbing. And we have a few pieces of media and articles today that I think you're going to find appalling. And I think today is going to be a really, really big show because of that.
Yeah, we have so much stuff to talk about. I've got a story, by the way, Matt, that I haven't even talked to you about that is bigger than any story that I've ever talked about. This isn't it. Now, this is a big story because it has global implications and implications for Americans on our soil. And again, this is them doing things to hurt us as Americans while telling us there's nothing to see here. And the amount of corruption that we have and rotted to the core that we have inside of see, everyone now has learned the game. If they're in the government, they're in leadership, they're like, oh yeah, we can just lie, cheat, and steal and take from them, and there's nothing they can do about it, because then we just start pointing fingers at each other. So it has become the Al Capone of organized crime across the country at every level. But we caught him. We caught him, and frankly, we're going to talk about Colorado here in a minute, but let's first talk about just a story about one of these people. This is since about December of, they started talking about in October. The number one exporter of mercenaries around the world, country that exports mercenaries to Ukraine, is Colombia. And the cartels are really playing hard with this because they need revenue. They need money. So they're convincing their guys, go over there and fight in this Ukrainian war. So that Colombia, the world's largest exporter of mercenaries, we're like soccer players, headhunters look at your work and make you an offer. Thousands of former military personnel are hired for large sums to fight in wars and serve as private security abroad. The network behind the business of the government is in the government sites. So they talk about this specific person, a 31-year-old Yasin Sanchez, retired Colombian army soldier turned mercenary who went to fight in Ukraine. Had purchased a repatriation insurance and warned his family of his possible fate in the war against Russian invasion. His main motivation was money. He watched TikTok videos of fellow countrymen promising that a volunteer for the Ukrainian army, he would receive 19 million pesos, about $4,300 a month. So he saved up about $2,300 to take a flight from Bogota to Madrid. Another from there to Poland, and finally crossing Ukraine by land to enlist in the foreign conflict. So this goes through the story. This is unbelievable. So there he is right now. See if you can keep going. So money. He's going to fight for another country, not for any other reason other than money. He had worked as a security guard and a nurse over the past decade. The financial stimulus has pushed thousands of Colombians to go fight abroad. And countries like Ukraine or Sudan. I could tell you so much about Ukraine. Others preferred to work as bodyguards, security guards in the United Arab Emirates or Mexico. And Sanchez didn't last long. He deserted after 6 months, partly because the actual pay was far below the $4,300 promised. He felt cheated, partly because he felt mistreated by his superiors. We were locked up. They would take us at dawn to do push-ups as punishment for some of our colleagues speaking Spanish to the locals. That was forbidden. Told them they were volunteers, not hostages. With him, he says, went 40 soldiers from the International Legion. Now he considered various offers, such as going to Mexico to work for the cartels or the project in Africa, which is making a big splash at the moment. The interest of Colombians within the mercenary and security market is well justified. Colombia is one of the largest and best trained militaries in the world. They've been training for counterinsurgency doctrine for 60 years. Okay, take that down.
I mean, I will point out, when you say openly that you were considering going and working for the most evil people, arguably in the Southern Hemisphere, and with the cartels in South America, that right there automatically makes me lose any respect that I would have had for him in any capacity. I mean, those are the people that are killing everyone. So that I'll just point that out because he did say that within this interview. But then the fact that they're locking them up, it's not a choice to go fight in the military at this point in Ukraine, not even for people who are mercenaries from other countries. It is now at the point where they're bringing people in, promising them more money than they're actually going to get. And then, of course, most of them die, right? So then you don't have to pay a dead person. That's the whole theory behind it. Look, we're going to give you $100 million to come fight. Okay, you're dead the next week. Okay, oops, we can't pay you. So that's the first thing that we see happening because they don't have enough soldiers to fight. And the idea of being locked in a room that you can't leave, then you have to go do push-ups and then go kill people in the morning. I mean, it's just war is so brutal and you can't really understand what it is like to be part of it unless you have a long conversation with someone who has been part of it or you experience it yourself. And really, if you don't experience it yourself, you'll never fully understand it.
Yeah. So I could beat this horse to death. They're predicting that the war in Ukraine could last as much as 10 more years. And it talks about entering a new phase of war. This is the new voice of Ukraine. Now, here's what you have to know about Ukraine. Zelensky took over the Anti-Corruption Bureau in Ukraine just a week ago. So the Russia war against Ukraine could persist till 2034. Former commander-in-chief of Ukraine's armed forces and now Ukraine's ambassador to the United Kingdom said in an interview in the news for a news outlet. Let me just tell you what Russia's appetite is for this to go on for the next 10 years. Zero. They don't have an appetite to go on for 10 years in the war of people that are closely related to them. Many of them are actually Russian and Ukrainian. I mean, many people from Ukraine are Russian. Many people from Russia are Ukrainian. There is zero interest in going through this. The Russian army has adapted its tactics, employing a strategy of attrition against Ukraine's armed forces and civilian population. And so this is just basically propaganda. Now, keep in mind, the anti-corruption, they haven't had an election in Ukraine. I mean, everything could end if you had an election because the people of Ukraine's voice would be heard really easy if you didn't use Dominion and you didn't use the same subsystems as Dominion and ES&S and what we have in the United States. Then 100%, you would be able to solve this war problem they have in Ukraine. But there is now protests. There are protests that are actually happening in Ukraine for a second day. Let's go ahead and play this if we can. This is the protest in Ukraine against Zelensky and has gone on for a second day. And this is after Zelensky basically said, I'm the dictator. I don't have to listen. Matt, we don't have to listen. You don't get to vote for a leader. I'm your leader. I'm the 4-foot midget that gets to send your children to die because they're outmanned, outgunned, and outmaneuvered by Russia. I'm sorry, that's just the reality. Let's go ahead and play it.
I have way more respect for them than I do for anyone who goes from another country and tries to fight in a war. Those are people who are risking their lives by even standing up to Zelensky. That's probably the most dangerous job currently in the world is protesting against that little midget because he will come take you, put you on the front lines, or just kill you if you are even seen there. It is a full North Korea style dictatorship at this point.
And that while they actually say that they're promoting and standing for democracy. And it is such it's a war on words. I'll say what Michael Yon said yesterday. That's my spirit animal, by the way. I'm just convinced. I went through and read a bunch of stuff from him. Amazing guy. And Green Beret. And so, by the way, the gentleman that's going to be joining us now is also a Green Beret. He's going to be joining us here in a second. It's a war of words. It's propaganda to a level that we've never seen before. Like we've never seen what is happening right now. They have changed the meaning of words. They have created this mass amount of confusion and chaos where sometimes you feel like you're standing on the right side, only to wake up standing next to a demon and going, "What? I can't be on your side. How am I on your side? Like this is crazy." So nobody really knows what's static to fight for. We don't even have, we're captured in the Republican Party, the Democrat Party. Every part of our entire institution is captured by this chaos, and we do nothing about it. And so Zelensky is capitalizing on that, And we forget about the history of Ukraine, the Maidan coup, going all the way back to 2014. What they did to steal elections, using the same substructure systems they use in the United States with Dominion, ES&S, and others. All of those systems that they used came out of a place called Serbia, which is HQ for development and code writing for what? Oh, Dominion. And the headquarters for their large data center, which is also in Serbia, that was built by a company called Roaming Networks. So what's happening in Ukraine? Sorry, I keep eating these almonds. Got to eat lunch, so I've been trying to sneak them while you're talking. What's been
I
happening?
didn't even notice. You are a very good almond eater, Joe. That's actually
I'm an almond
impressive.
eater.
I until you mentioned it, I would have never even known there were almonds that were going from your hand into your mouth. That's impressive.
I was sneaking them, sneak attack. Yeah. So look, the U.S. government has said that we're going to give another $300 million in arms to Ukraine. Oh, but we're not giving it to them. They have to buy them. So they're selling them Hawk missile parts and Bradley vehicle support to Ukraine, but they are buying them. Now, is that any different than giving them the weapons? Sort of. It's kind of like a step backwards, right? At least it's stepping away from, having it's almost like sitting in the middle saying, look, I'd rather you guys just get to the table. Now, whether or not that can happen, I don't know. You have two really strong, egotistical men that are at the table, and that would be Putin and President Trump. And you got Zelensky, who's kind of like the midget from Fantasy Island, who just shows up in his T-shirt, and you just hope that somebody actually can figure out what that little guy wants.
Except for when he went to meet Netanyahu, then he wore a suit, if you'll recall. So there's levels to it, obviously. Some people he's going to wear the suit, some people not so much.
Well, Netanyahu believes that he's the president of the United States anyway. It's like the United States of Israel. I'm not going to be very popular. Our guest might actually chastise me because I haven't asked him this question yet, but we're going to find out in a minute. Let's take a quick break. We'll do a quick break, and then we'll be back with Burlingame. I didn't say that right. Burlingame. I hope I said that right. Let me just tell you a little bit about him before we go to break. He graduated from Norwich University in strategic studies and defense. Can you go up, please? Because I don't know how you expect me to read that. Down. Sorry. Down is up. He did complete 2 years of his PhD research at UAB and interdisciplinary engineering. He has extensive studies in law, focusing on war game, resentfuls, responsibilities, and adoptables in legal practice. He's a senior fellow at the National Foundation for Integrative Medicine. He founded and leads the Jason Dawson and Stuart McGurk Brain Health Research Fellowship. He's co-founder of the Third Generation Medicine Labs, founded 2 Silicon Valley startups. Wow, we're going to have a good conversation about that. A tech guy. Worked as a tech analyst in investment banking and private equity in China, the U.S., and the EU. And he did serve 11 years with the 1st and 20th Special Forces Group, started in his early 40s. Focused on understanding humanity in real-world settings beyond the global north, which means he's been to other countries, which is always of abundance of knowledge. So we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by our guests. It went black. In every thread, in every stitch, Otterbound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Otterbound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
My first time here shooting at the shooting range.
How's it going? It's also my first time, and I'm really excited.
It's also my first time here, first time shooting a gun.
My day off of work, and they were like, hey, want to shoot some guns? That was awesome. The revolver is crazy. I will definitely come again.
Yeah, it was awesome. Really cool experience.
100% bringing my friends here another time.
I like to come shoot because I get to spend time with my family.
Same for me. I love spending time with my family. It's something to do.
It's a lot of fun shooting.
When I first moved back into town, the first place I came was DCF Guns, and I signed up for a membership right away.
I got into shooting because of self-defense. I would encourage all women to be ready and to feel comfortable handling a handgun.
This was my first time ever shooting at DCF West. It felt amazing. I shot an AR-15 and it was amazing. It was powerful and I loved it.
I'm here today as a part of a group of women that support one another in continuing to practice and refine our knowledge.
Not only self-protection of ourselves, but protection of our loved ones as well.
I have fun and I get to meet with other ladies.
You should always be prepared to defend yourself.
And I love coming to DCF Guns West to shoot. I come with my family. It's a nice, clean, friendly range. Here I feel safe. I feel like the people to my left and my right are also really cognizant of their range etiquette. That's why I come to DCF Guns West.
Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter.
Gabe! Dude, Gabe, something's in the dumpster.
Whoa, what is that for?
Something's in the dumpster, man.
Well, let's use the burner. We don't want to wake the neighbors. Freeze! Stop resisting!
Stop resisting!
If you're looking for a less than lethal option for self-defense or keeping pests out of your dumpster, then check out Byrna at DCF Guns. Visit us at our 3 locations in Castle Rock or Colorado Springs, or visit us online at dcfguns.com.
Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter. All right, caught me with my mouth full. An almond. It was an almond. It was an almond. Guys, give you. I take a bite to eat, man. I just went by really quick. All right. So Eric Michael, EM is an acronym for Eric Michael. I did get his last name almost correct. He's from the UK. Usually I call him first, but we're not going to waste any more time. Eric, welcome to the call. So tell I butchered what you've done. It sounds like you've done a lot. You live kind of the same way I do, by saying, here's the failure I had, taught me a whole lot, and I was able to be successful as a result of that. So just tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Army early, for a brief stint, tried to be a writer for a while. Hadn't lived enough life to tell a real story. Went back home to San Francisco to in the mid 90s, late 90s for the tech boom, and did some fintech for a while, then 2 telecom companies, and then went and was an analyst in private equity investment banking, all the stuff you articulated. And then a year in Europe with a yacht company as a CFO, trying to restructure them, trying to do a big project with the US government, Northrop Grumman and others, and got my derriere handed to me because that's a corrupt world. The ultimately corrupt world. And then had an early midlife crisis and went into special forces and did that for 11 years, did the doctoral studies, trying to figure out if AI was going to save us. Turns out it's not. And then some physical brain injuries caught up with me and got me ultimately into diagnosis and treatment. And then that got me down the medical space. And that's kind of the fight I'm mostly involved in daily, because if we don't win that one, then we might lose all the others.
So tell me about, can I talk about a tweet you put out today? Because I think
Sure.
You said everyone's knocking about wondering why Trump and this and Trump that. He's surrounded by those with zero qualms killing him and his family.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? Although you went into some other stuff that is less than 3.
Yeah.
People are you referring to Julius Caesar, like the Brutus, having that many people around him that would basically do harm to him?
Certainly. Definitely the Praetorian world. I've done extensive writing on Twitter and Substack, the Praetorian Problem. Actually, mostly on Twitter for that one. And then the related mob state problem and the Devil's Legions, which you were just talking about before I came on. We have a Praetorian system just like the Romans did that ruled and controlled Rome for 300 years from behind the scenes. We have the same system now, very same people. And they've had 1,000 years to perfect their craft of controlling everything from behind the scenes. And how intelligence and assassination. It's not like they didn't shoot Trump on live TV. Think they won't do it now because somehow he's miraculously, God shielded in a bubble because he's a president? What about his extensive family? Right?
You think that influences some of the decisions that he's made?
Oh, it has to. I'm a father. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to do what I have to do that I believe is right for my family and other people. I'm going to do that, but I'm going to move with caution. And I'm not playing at that level he's playing. Right? I still got to do it at my level, but I'm not playing at that level where I don't know if, one of my own security has been compromised in some way and I'm going to get shot or I'm going to get a phone call or somebody's going to sit down next to me with a packet of photos and they've got my grandchild come on, people. Like, we think we don't live in that world. Do you think that the elites don't live in that world? That somehow they're in this kumbaya kind of land? It's ludicrous for us to think that way. And it's what the very people that are keeping them in that position and keeping us all want us to think. So that we don't stand to and stand behind our princes. Down with princes. What kind of prince would want to put their ass on the line or their family on the line when they could be snuffed at any moment? The people will do nothing, like the Kennedys. So that's what I meant.
So talk to me about, this is kind of a deeper conversation because you have as much patience with the Kabuki Theater as I do. And serious people understand the consequences behind the very unserious paper tigers we have on the Con Inc. side and on the radical left side. They're both liars on both sides, just a different type of liar.
Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah.
So what do you think? There's some good things that have come out of the Trump administration. We'd have to admit that. Closed borders, which is a nonsensical deal. It shouldn't even been debatable. It should have been closed from the beginning. But how do you think that the Trump administration is doing so far, given what you know and what anyone that has had any sort of extensive travel knows about the captured nature of our country?
Well, I think he's doing, and it's not just him, right? He was, elevated to that position. I think they're doing rather extraordinary, all things considered.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Any
disappointments?
Not really.
Say Epstein. Don't say Epstein.
No, I think that's all being done on purpose. Because somebody leaked it out. I'm not a 5D chess kind of guy. We're not in 5D chess territory. We're in checkers territory.
Right now, yes.
Right? People keep talking about chess. We're not playing chess. We're playing checkers or we're playing Go. The old Chinese, much more sophisticated, complex, but it's still two-dimensional, right?
It's using the same playbook no matter where we are in the equation. It's the same playbook.
Yeah, well,
it hasn't changed. And we keep falling for it.
We're linguistic monkeys and we fall for language again and again and again and again, right? So I think they're doing extraordinarily well.
Matt, you're muted.
We don't know who released the supposed memo. We don't know the way in which they're communicating. Trump's no idiot. If there's anything the guy understands, it's how to connect with people, how to move people. He's intentionally antagonizing his base. It puts the whole, somebody put that information out there, and somebody's put this out to put, right? The enemy is constantly trying to force you into a fight on their terrain and their time.
Their terms.
And you have to constantly try and prevent that from happening. And so it's not time to take on the Epstein list right now because the list is irrelevant. What's important, and the whole pedophilia operation was cover for action and status. It wasn't what was actually happening down underneath. All that stuff happened, and it's horrible, and it's got to be dealt with. But what was happening down underneath was far worse. What was happening underneath was the complete theft of all of the wealth of the West and the enslavement, and if not, kill off, the theft of the commons in the old term, and the murder of the commons in a world war. That's what that was all about. That's what that whole cover, and this goes back, this is why I call it Operation Maxwell Epstein, because this goes back to Robert Maxwell and Steve Cohen and Meyer Lansky and all those guys, right? This all goes back to before World War II. And it all got formally instantiated in 1947 with the standing up the CIA, et cetera, the mob state is what I call it, by the Praetorians, which is really the financialists, not the bankers necessarily. There's solid bankers, and we're good to have them. But the financialists, the ones that create nothing, do nothing, who just make money on money. They provide nothing but manipulation of spreadsheets and the theft of assets. So I think they're doing extraordinarily. I think what he's doing is pissing off his base on purpose so he can put things back onto time and place of his choosing, and to let the enemies know that this isn't going away. Don't think you're going to be able to, manipulate and malign and confuse people away from this. One's not going away. It's going to get dealt with.
Okay. Matt, you had something?
I would love to hear your perspective on what's happening right now, not only in Japan, but in multiple other countries in Asia, especially though hitting Japan at the moment. Obviously, right behind you is a beautiful painting depicting Mount Fukushima in Japan and a beautiful forest there as well. But you also have extensive knowledge as to some of the ways that they're operating politically in Asia. And I want to know your perspective on this huge shift where people in Japan are being pressured to allow mass immigration. They're being told, you're going to die off. Your people aren't going to be around anymore. Your economy is going to fail. You need mass migration. You need the same systems, the same problems that caused the downfall, really, of the American empire to the extent that we've seen it. Now, that doesn't mean it's not savable, but the same thing seems to be on track to potentially happen in Japan. They're letting in more and more. They're letting their ideals slip. Is that something that you see as a possibility, and what can they do to stop it?
私の心に読んです。I lived in Japan, and I spent many years studying Japanese martial arts and culture and the history, etc.
Are you a ninja?
Well, no.
I had to crack a joke. Just crack a joke.
No. And I'm not Steven Seagal either. Right. So what's happening is they're setting up Japan for step 7 of the financialist kill chain, which is collapse and abandonment. So, and all of this ties into tokenization of assets, et cetera. What they're trying to do is they are trying to do a final great theft of all the assets of the world that they don't have the physical martial capacities anymore. And whatever they did have, they just burned up in Ukraine. So they don't have the physical martial capacities to take to conquer nations in war and take their assets. So they try to do it in this passive aggressive way of flooding these countries, which is the Cloward Piven strategy, et cetera, and Saul Alinsky and all that stuff, but just 100 times more, because this isn't about communism, despite all of the masking and faces of it. But the way in which they operate, and people can find the articles on the Financialist kill chain on Substack and on Twitter. I've written extensively about it. if you don't have the armies to conquer and take the assets, you get the nation financialized, you get the elites on your side, and you just flood the country with people that are never going to contribute to the country, and it's going to collapse. And then you come in 70 years from now, 80 years from now, and you buy the assets on the cheap, or just take them. And this is what happened. This is why we sent the communists in and backed the communists to take down Russia in the turn of the last century, after the World War I. It's why we backed Mao in China and not Chiang Kai-shek. And then we swoop in, we try to in the late 90s or early 90s into the late 90s, swoop in and take all of Russia's assets. And we were doing pretty good until they elevated a Red Caesar. And we were doing the same in China starting in the 90s into the late 2000s. And by 2012, China said, no, you're not going to do this here. And they elevated a Red Caesar. There are no Red Caesars that I know of in Japan.
Well, there's an apathy that is almost, you can almost cut it with a knife. You can see it.
Well,
and because I equate what they did in the United States to white guilt, to what they've done to the people of Japan for, ultimately being bombed by.
That's what they did to Germany. Yeah, it's. Mm-hmm.
And so that basically took good people. And by the way, I've met very few Japanese people that I don't have a deep regard for. They're just amazing people.
Absolutely. All my appliances are from, I keep touting this, all my appliances are from Japan because they're the best. I literally love Japanese people for the sole reason that a lot of the cool stuff that I have in my house is from Japan. That's a good enough reason for me. I mean, Japan has a high IQ on average. They're respectful people. In their society, I know there's not a high rate of theft. There's not a high rate of poverty.
Now there is.
But it's changing. It is. And in the cities of Japan, it does seem like there's a shift happening where it's no longer that same safe feel that is embodied by the Japanese people of old.
Too many Japanese women on birth control. Birth control gets aerosolized by women breathing out, comes out the pores, and it downregulates testosterone production in males.
That and soy milk.
Well, the soy milk doesn't help either. But
I was just being a little.
Most of them won't. Yeah.
It's very serious.
This is the big problem in Japan. Yeah, because it downregulates testosterone production, which downregulates aggression. It downregulates competitiveness more than anything else. And you wind up with apathetic males who, I can't remember the Japanese word for it, but, who have never had sex and live alone and play video games all day, right? It's where the whole concept came from. The Japanese actually have a word for it, but a vast number of Japanese women are on birth control and are in the workforce and all this other stuff.
Yes,
that's how you just
involuntarily celibate, and so meaning that it's not your choice that you're not sleeping with any women. That's unfortunately.
But I think too. I don't like that term because it's not. It is a bit involuntary, but it's not for the reasons people think. Mm-hmm. It's involuntary because our hormonal system, two hormones drive everything that males and females do, even the wackos that don't know which one they are. That's exactly right. Yeah. And you get those balances out in the ways that we have for the last 60 years, and you're going to have some fundamental second and third order effects, right? You want to turn these countries around, the United States around, you want to turn Japan around, you want to turn Germany around, ban the birth control pill. And it'll turn around within months because you'll have competitiveness back amongst the males. You'll have the females attracted to competitive males again, and all this stuff starts to sort itself out.
So we talked a little bit about
women will start.
Go ahead.
Women will start at 20 years old. Okay, I'm going to be on birth control. I'm going to put a patch on my arm. I'm going to get abortions. And then by the time they're 25, 30, whenever they decide, okay, well, maybe I'm ready to have a kid or two, then at that point, their bodies are incapable of being fertile.
They're at the end of the fertility window, even if they didn't take the chemistry, change their chemistry. Yes.
Yeah, and then and even if they weren't at the end of the window, even if they're 25, if you've been since you were 18, taking these drugs that alter your body's physiological reaction to those things, you're going to have a much lower chance of producing kids. Now, with my wife, she never did that, which I'm very grateful for. She never was at the point where she wanted to do that. And so when we had kids, every time that we wanted to have kids, it would be like that. We didn't, it didn't take months. And you know, you could say that's lucky, but I think how you act, and I don't drink, I don't do drugs. So the combination of those things, if you make the right decisions with your body, it's very easy to have kids. But the whole society is set up to force you to make decisions and encourage you to make decisions that cause it to take, oh, it's a year. You look it up, you Google it, it takes 6 months and you have to try every day to get pregnant. Well, I didn't experience that. Why are so many people experiencing that? Why is that the average? And that is why. And in Japan, I think maybe arguably it's even worse with that. I mean, there's a lot of things that are better, but that's specifically maybe worse there.
Yeah. It's way more expensive in Japan and has been for 2 decades more than, longer than in the United States. So, where people used to have kids in their younger years and all life was oriented around that, and you had a reason to stand and fight and build for your nation. Straight up truth of the matter is, once you cross a certain threshold of mostly women, because only 40% of males have ever had kids historically, whereas about 80%. Once you cross a threshold of about 60% of your women, maybe 70%, we don't know exactly, but certainly 60% of your women having kids versus the 80, and those women are rising up in positions of authority and power, the childless ones, you fundamentally changed everything. You fundamentally changed absolutely every aspect of your society and civilization, and you have removed masculinity for it. And you have to have masculinity for 2 things. And you can't, and this isn't masculinized women, it doesn't bloody work. You have to have masculinity for 2 things: competitiveness for mates, because that creates innovation and the willingness and desire to stand and fight for things that matter.
So much stuff I want to break down on that. Because I really don't, I mean, I hate to say I don't care about Japan so much. I just, it's hard. Well, and I mean that from the standpoint of America first.
Yeah.
Like, what are we going to do? Like, we can't affect what happens in other countries until we affect what happens here. Right.
Yeah.
And you'd be remiss to not look at it and go, the people behind the curtain have already captured other countries first.
Yes.
And then used it as their kind of their halo. And so they could walk country to country, and all of the people are captured, which means they've enslaved and put in bondage, kind of like what the Bible says, the entire world.
Yes, this is what resentfuls, financialists are. They are slavers. The book I wrote, The Eternal War, the first doctrinal line and line of effort is power. And it is a conflict, an eternal conflict between those who believe humanity should be forced to serve others and those who believe that's not, I don't know if I could swear, but that's not true, right? And we've been fighting this out since the beginning of time, and it's not just humans. We see it in other species as well.
All right, so what obviously I have plenty of testosterone. I'm trying to teach Matt a little bit about testosterone. He's got some pretty good testosterone, and he's younger. So there's a group of us, Eric, there's a group of us that have, that it's been the key to our success. We're super competitive. We've been super successful. We try to, instill that into our children. Why is it that the weakness of society, the paper tigers of society, are the ones running things? Why is it that we have this cancer?
Yeah, it's estrogen. Yeah.
But and this gets to, like, I've read The Art of War. I've gone through I've read all of it. And I still can't understand why people would side with that who have testosterone.
Okay. So,
and I don't want to use testosterone, but I want to use like mentally.
Yeah, masculinity. Right. Yeah. Men. So, starting in the 1920s and 1930s, so first we got to realize we killed off most of our real men in World War I. And Western society went insane and lost its moral, any claim to morality. That was just a slaughter of a war for no reason whatsoever. In the 1920s and 1930s, and then we get into an economic depression and which was probably an actual depression. People were depressed. We started to look more and more to the academics for answers to things. And that really took off in World War II, where we had to technology the enemy. And then it just accelerated after that. Well, I don't know many university professors, and I've been in all the way up through my doctoral studies. I don't know a single professor I've ever met or known of that has direct frontline combat experience or was a police officer or EMT in Compton or Watts or somewhere, where there's real shit going on. Again, to use my language, right? But they're the ones that have been writing all the papers and articles, about and books about human nature.
Oh, yeah.
And they've been skewing all of that towards the estrogens, towards this, passive aggressive, feminized world. Why? Because they were trying to get laid. And they were competing with the masculine guys on the football team and the guys that were soldiers that were, home on leave. And this has been going on for longer than that, but I mean, really taking off since really ludicrously since the 1960s. But this has been going on for a century now. It's the same thing.
Go ahead.
I'm super fascinated by the idea of there being a war that completely changes the fundamental ideology of a society even after the war. I mean, that's such a fascinating...
To this very day, we've not recovered. We have not, somebody has had severe brain injuries and dealing with guys, and that's what I help guys do is recover from brain injuries. And then on top of that, they can develop, post-traumatic stress. There's always physical brain injuries down underneath. But working with and dealing with these guys and then going through the brain injury part myself, I didn't have PTSD. Identity destruction is a very real thing. And it isn't the combat that does it, it's the injuries. And then the inability to come back and rebuild your identity in a feminized society where you're verboten.
I think that's one of the reasons why there's such a big difference right now between Europe and America. Because Europe used to be a dominant force. It used to be strong, powerful, kind of in the vein that we would like to think of America as today. It's less so than it used to be, but still has a lot of that. In Europe, they lost way more people than us in both World War I and World War II, to the extent that I do think that had such a significant impact that the reason why Germany is falling, in part, not just the elites, but the people, why they're susceptible to those programs, to the propaganda, is because it is no longer the same stock of old.
They all died in World War II.
Yes,
we didn't defeat the Nazis at all. We brought them into our own government. Look at all the Gladio and Paperclip and Sunrise and all the other named operations and all kinds of others. But we defeated the Germans. We killed millions of German men.
I thought Michael was my spirit animal. I'm like, I don't have to trade him in. So, by the way, you're dealing with this stuff related to brain injuries and PTSD. Are you using TMS at all?
We don't do TMS. We find that it has temporary benefit, and I respect it. And there's other blocks and things. So we focus on 3 stacks. The microbiome, which is where 90% of your neurotransmitters, modulators, regulators, hormones are actually produced. It's not in the brain. So we work on the gut-brain axis. We focus on biomolecular, which starts in the gut-brain axis, and then we focus on bioelectrics. We do bioelectrics, just not usually TMS. There's more powerful things like electroequiscope, neurogen, and some other things that are much more effective. And there's a couple other solutions out there as well. And then, of course, we'll get guys into hyperbaric when and where we can. Some light therapy works for some people. So it's a whole mix of things. And then I worked with Novo Foundation, Peter Buffett's foundation, about 3 years ago, and they helped me with some work where now we're focusing on identity stack work because we're finding that we can get a guy, and they can go through other programs, et cetera, and they'll get neurologically healthy. And for a time, they're psychologically healthy. And then out of nowhere, 3 years, 5 years down the road, they just kill themselves one day. And everybody's like, what the? It's because that identity stack hadn't been done to help them, not reintegrate. But I'll say it this way, because it hit me, quite literally driving across Mississippi in a rainstorm back in 2019. After my diagnosis, a couple months into treatment, things were getting better, but it was still terrible. It dawned on me that I had died 8 years before with the second actually major brain injury. That who I was as an individual neurologically, right? Mm-hmm. The structures of the brain, processing capabilities, all that stuff I'd spent decades learning about who I am and how I respond. It had died. That guy was dead. And I'd been dragging a corpse around on life support, trying to think one day I could resuscitate it. And I had to let that guy go and bury him. And then I had to come to grips with the grief and all of that, and then figure out who I am now, right?
Yeah, I want to tell you something. Mm-hmm. What you just said, most men don't know how to articulate that. Like, so I grew up super poor, fighting every day. I've never seen a fight I didn't like.
Yeah.
Right? 6.5 years, Middle East and Africa, negotiating in conflict areas, being in places where most people wouldn't go, seeing the worst of humanity, also the best. And then coming back and going through what I went through over the last 5 years for people trying to kill my family. Mm-hmm. I mean, you go through these stages, right? And then you don't want to ever go back to where you were when you were younger. Then you don't want to go back. Then you don't want to become the person that you had to become in this part of your life. And so you're constantly trying to evolve. And then you lose your identity somewhere. You wake up one day and it's like that. You just...
the whole stack collapses.
Yeah. And it happens.
But if the guy... absolutely. And to something you're articulating, when I talk about traumatic brain, there's always physical brain injury underneath traumatic stress, right? Post-traumatic stress, et cetera. But that doesn't have to be acquired through a blow to the head. It can be toxicity. And toxicity can be environmental, or it can be certain types of prolonged stressors that cause internal toxicity, cortisol, et cetera, imbalances in the neuroendocrine system, et cetera, that over time also break down neuronal networks and the same kind of dysregulation. And so people that have been under, high performance, this can happen to athletes, even in non-impact, but people that have been in high performance, high stress environments over periods of time can incur substantive brain injuries that show up in brain scans. And they don't think, well, I never got hit in the head. I've never been unconscious. Go look at a brain scan. You'll be like, yeah. So the identity stack issue can happen to a whole lot of people. It's somewhat what we call a midlife crisis in some people. That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard figuring out, it's hard coming to peace with the fact that you died. I am not that guy anymore. He's gone. No part of him's around. Yeah.
You talked about men that just, everything's fine, go through the program, they didn't get all the way through the stack. They wake up one day and they commit suicide. I would argue that they're actually not committing suicide. They're just seeing it as a check. It's very matter of fact. I'm checking
out. No. I totally agree with you. Yeah. And it's this realization.
Yeah.
I did already.
That it literally happens that fast. You get to the place where you're like,
exactly.
Okay, I'm checking. This all checked out.
Yeah.
I'm good. Bye.
Yeah.
It literally happens.
That's exactly the case.
You wake up.
No, that's exactly the case. It's not a conscious thought. It's exactly what that is. Their neurological system goes, well, I'm already dead. What am I doing here?
Yeah. Like it's over. And
what am I doing here?
Because of what you just said, though, the psychological warfare that happens inside of our communities in our country is designed to cater to that, pushing people to that.
Correct. So, because resentfuls don't want to kill. They want you dead. They want you to build up assets. Then they want to take those assets, but they don't want to kill you. They want you to do it yourself. They get a dirty little kick out of that. Especially if they rise up into power systems, these passive aggressive estrogens power systems. They keep score. They keep score by how many people destroy themselves.
Yeah.
But we also now have an update coming in that there is a strike force which is going to be investigating Barack Obama and his ties to creating the Russiagate hoax. If we want to go ahead and throw that up on the screen right there. So this right here is an article going into detail of exactly what they're doing when it comes to this Obama investigation. Obviously, a lot of people want to see Obama thrown in prison, believe he is part of the elite system that has destroyed our moral fiber of our country to the degree that we've seen it happen. And so here's what the article says. Today, the Department of Justice announced the formation of a strike force to assess the evidence publicized by the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and investigate the potential next legal steps, which might stem from DNI Gabbard's disclosures. The department takes all alleged weaponization and intelligence community with the utmost seriousness. Upon the formation of the strike force, Attorney General Pamela Bondi stated, "The Department of Justice is proud to work with my friend Director Gabbard, and we are grateful for our partnership in delivering accountability for the American people. We will investigate these troubling disclosures fully and leave no stone unturned to deliver justice." Now, a lot of people are saying they're choosing now as the timing of it to kind of distract from the Epstein stuff, which probably is true, but it's still a good thing to see. I mean,
I don't think it is. I think the people that leaked the Epstein thing leaked it at the time they did because they knew this was coming.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Right?
Well, I would.
Here's the other thing. You want to know how, okay, so resentfuls are genocidal people they're genocidal slavers by nature. They're about 30% of a population. And then there's about 50% of the population that are adoptables, that are resentful in some areas and responsible in some areas, and that changes across their life, etc. These folks are locked in. So estrogen-based societies, estrogen power structures, estrogen is locked in genetic warfare every minute of every day. It's the very nature of estrogen, is to reduce genetic competition. And again, this isn't just the human species, this is all kinds of animal species, right? It's the nature of estrogen is to reduce genetic competition. Okay. That makes them pretty serious eugenicist. And it's really striking to me that, well, soy boys, and they are included, right? So when I say estrogens, I don't just mean females, right? I mean anybody who's estrogen rich, and then the unhealthy estrogens, and that's not to take away from the healthy women, which I actually put in the testosterone's camp because we're working in balance, right?
And women need testosterone the same way men do.
Correct. Right? Estrogen upregulates for violence neurologically. Testosterone downregulates. It's all good studies. But the point being is that if you want an indication of how vile these people are, and I don't mean the people going after Obama and Clapper and all of them, because those are horrible people, but the first Black president was put in position specifically to take the fall and specifically to set Black people back. It's also why they're using Letitia James in New York, and Catania or whatever the hell, whatever that person is.
Ketanji Brown.
The Supreme Court, right?
Yeah, I know
they're setting Black people up to take the fall for all of the Black people and the Jews, right? They're all being set up.
Well, let's talk about that.
It's not that some aren't willing participants, right? So it's not like they're all wholly innocent. So I don't mean to say that, but yeah, go ahead.
I think Israel is captured just like America, right? The people of Israel who have faith and who follow God, those people are the useful idiots for the godless, faithless atheists.
Fodder. They're fodder.
And we find ourselves in this place where then we are told as Christians for so long that you have to support Israel or you're not a Christian. And then I'm like, okay, show me where that is. And it's not there, right?
Well, didn't they kill your guy? Didn't the Jews kill your guy a long time ago?
100%. I mean, look, actually he was a Palestinian.
It was the Romans who did it. Yeah. He was a Palestinian Jew. A Galilean.
So it's kind of fitting that they're killing the Palestinians. Anyway, so I'm making light of it just a little bit because I think it's important for us to look at it from the perspective of all people. But we have created a war on the truth. The truth is not the truth. It's just not. It's a lie.
Well, how does the estrogen work? Yeah, how does estrogen work? So this is another doctrinal line and line of effort in the eternal war. There's two doctrinal lines. One's reality, meaning they're constantly warping reality and creating artificial reality tunnels that we're all stuck in, so that when we think we're out of it, we've broken free. No, you're just in another part of the tunnel. The other doctrinal line is warfare, and the resentfuls. The estrogens are locked in all out psychological warfare always, every minute of every day. And what do they have? What are the three weapons that they have? Projection, projecting what they're doing upon others. Transference, which is to get others to transfer what they're doing onto you. And then once either one of those or both happens, then isolation of you. That's the only three weapons they have in their warfare toolkit. Then they get those people that are isolated, because once you've isolated somebody, they'll do almost anything to get out of that isolation.
100%.
Or, if they don't kill themselves, they'll do almost anything to get out of that isolation. We're communal animals. The way in which they keep all that going, though, is they also got to constantly warp reality. And we're linguistic monkeys, visual and linguistic monkeys. And even the visual things we translate into language. So it's just too easy to manipulate us and control us.
So what's the antidote?
Punch more people in the face. No.
Love this guy.
Okay, let's
go.
Clip it right there. Clip it right there. No explanation.
God,
there we go. We're
right
safe
there.
now.
Punch for me. Yesterday, I said I wanted to put my fist through somebody's face and push it to the back of their brain. And
it's the honest truth. When we were young and somebody was lying, at some point it was like, I don't have to listen to this.
I'll beat his ass.
Yeah.
Yes. See, Matt? This is reality. This is wisdom right here.
Who would win in a fight? I want to know. Eric versus Joe. We've got it lined up. Batty nods are on. Who's coming out on top?
He's a ninja and I'm a wrestler. So, I don't know. Yeah.
I'm old now. I'm old now. I don't toe to two. I'll just shoot some. Old men don't fight fair. And neither do smart young men either, by the way, just so you know. Right? That's how you get to be an old man.
Yeah, but I think that, so I own gun stores and ranges.
Awesome.
With you. I know how to knock the bullseye at 45 feet. Matter of fact, I had to go do my recurring training. 45 feet, you had to put 4-inch circle, and you had to put 50 rounds or 30 rounds in the circle. Can't miss. You missed 3. And I knocked the center out of it. Didn't at 45 feet.
Right on.
Deadly.
There you go. So in this case, we probably wouldn't get in a fight. We'd sit down and have a scotch and talk out our difference. Say what the hell, man. Right. And then if we couldn't work that out, we go have a duel, and then it's whatever comes out of it.
But here's what I know for a fact.
Yeah.
When I get into disagreements with someone, and they're a man and I'm a man, it never has to get to fighting because we know what fighting looks like.
No, exactly. Right? And this is why testosterone downregulates for violence in healthy individuals, because there's a vast variance in the capacity, skills and capacities of XY chromosome individuals. And in healthy societies, one of the very first set of heuristics that a young male figures out is, can I take that guy in a fight or not? A real fight. And they have to work that out early on, and then that shapes their life as they go along. And sometimes they got to test it, and sometimes the bigger dogs got to knock them down and don't go too far. But that set of heuristics helps guide them in how they develop themselves, of what talents and skills they should develop so that they could still earn their way in the place of man. Right, in the world of man, because there's lots of roles and responsibilities in that world. But ultimately, you have to learn that set of heuristics early on. The estrogens don't. I don't remember what it is, but something like 70% or more than that now, I think it is, of the time that young males spend from the age of 0 to 12 is with women. And they don't allow that, right? They don't allow. So these kids that have to get this heuristics programmed in physically by 3.5, and then socially it gets hard programmed in by about 7. If you miss that, you've missed that. You've missed those windows because you've now lost years of developing yourselves in other ways based off of where you are. And, oh, by the way, up till 15, 16 years of age, that can change quite a bit. You know, a young kid that physically was underdeveloped, or, you know, testosterone production didn't really kick in until he was 12, 13 years old. That kid can turn into a big, giant, you know, physically capable guy later on. But that's all this journey. We don't have any of that anymore. Males just
My
have
kids
no
did.
idea how to, well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean,
right.
I have a little bit of a story like that. My football coach, when I was in freshman year to sophomore year, I came back after summer and he was like, Matt, yeah, he's like, what's going on? And he was like, whoa, okay, whoa, what happened? I mean, I grew like 6 inches within one summer and put on a lot of muscle, and I was a completely different person physically from freshman to sophomore year, which was pretty cool because it made playing football a lot more fun.
Yeah, I put on 40 pounds in about a year, just under 2 years, from my sophomore year to my end of my junior year.
40 pounds?
Wow. 40 pounds. And then I would grow another couple inches later, taller. But I had malnutrition. I lived very poor when I was young, like you, for about 8 years. Didn't start that way, but malnutrition for many, many years had, slowed down and retarded my growth. So once I got into a long-term, very good foster care family, and was, good nutrition, and then wanted to, get athletic in sports, I ballooned up. And all it was just catching up, right?
Interesting. Yep. That makes sense.
I learned the hard way. I just learned fighting. I mean,
that's what we had to do when you're poor.
You're fighting for everything. You fight for you fight even if you strike before being stricken. And once you go through that process, you're just I never picked a fight. But if you picked a fight with me, it was you only had to go 1% in. You didn't even have to fully commit. You just had to go 1% in. I went the other 99 for you. I just wanted it.
Big, ruthless Scottish woman. My mother said, "Don't you ever start a fight, but if somebody else starts one, you don't finish it, I'll kick your ass."
Yeah. Well, my parents beat the hell out of me, so they were kind of the ones that.
God bless them for it.
I don't know. I never had to lay a hand on my son or my daughter. Okay, that's not true.
I've never laid a hand on my daughter.
My daughter chased our son around with a butter knife when she was 5. He was 3. And I picked her up and whacked her once on the butt. I came home and her mom literally had that look of anger in her eyes and took my daughter. My daughter was like 2 years old, 3 years old. And I was like, whap, whap, whap. I walked. You want to see someone freak out? I walked over. I got in between her, picked up my daughter, who's like, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. And I was like, don't you ever touch my daughter again. And I had to walk away because I was gonna hurt her. Yeah. So it's and my kids turned out great.
Awesome.
Yeah. As yours did, I assume.
She had some rough years. We went through a tough divorce, and then the brain injuries, I was just pretty much gone for about 4 years. She had some pretty rough years. I almost lost her there, but now she's, had to get her out of San Francisco, got her up to Idaho, and man, she's just blossoming. Everything's turned around, and I'm very proud of her.
It's amazing.
And I'm grateful.
That's a big upgrade. San Francisco to, I'm assuming you're probably in the woods or on a.
No, we're not, unfortunately, but yeah.
Well, part of
we get up there often. We're in the Boise area.
Okay.
My elderly parents are here. They were my foster family, adopted me, and they were in child welfare. He went to Syracuse, got his master's in social work, but really focused on child welfare, and that's what he did as a career after I went away to the Army.
Are you an East Coaster? Are you an East Coaster?
West Coast. No, I've been West Coast my whole life. Yeah.
Right. And then, all right. So you have that look. I'm sorry. I'm going to dig a little deeper here. So you moved to Idaho. You had a dark time in your life too. My brother died, by the way, and I had a really dark time. About a year and a half.
Oh, my younger and older brother are both dead now. Older one drugged himself to death. The younger one shot in the head, crimed himself, and then shot in the head. So,
my brother was murdered by a police officer in 2017.
Sorry to hear that.
But was running from the police.
So
And my older brother, same way. So it's same drug issue, which consumed him.
Yeah. Some kids, in my family, in my case, had my mother before, but some kids just shouldn't inherit money. Just doesn't go well for them.
I probably most of the time, right? Especially if it's too large an amount too quickly, and you don't have. I mean, it's okay, I think, if you have experience with your own business first, if you understand the value of money. But if you've never understood that and you just get a bunch of money, it almost always ends badly. Now, I would love to know also your perspective as a Green Beret. So the drug problem is something that I've been wanting to tackle. A lot of people want to tackle very heavily, very strongly. Trump proposed.
And the CIA.
And the CIA.
Drug problem will go away in a heartbeat.
There we go. Well, that works. But there's also the concept of taking our military and using our forces to go around the world and take out as many of these drug farms as possible. Is that something you see as a viable option?
No, we just tried that with the global war on terror. That's what it was. And what did it turn out to be? Tampa versus Langley. It was the CIA's, game writers against frickin' special operations game writers. And,
I think I found
that's what it was all about. Right? And all it was it just, a big frickin' reality TV where we killed somewhere between 4 and 11 million people to end terrorism and the drug problem. And that's not what it really was. It was a hostile business takeover. We now own and control all of them. And oh, by the way, the whole cartel ownership thing, that's not even a secret. There was a lieutenant colonel Marine who stood up in front of Congress when I was in high school and said, "Senator, I do not recall," about Iran-Contra. What was that? Picking up cocaine in Colombia, dropping it off the United States, taking the funds that were, made off of that and buying weapons off the market from the Iranians to go back to South and Central America for the Contras and Sandinistas to fight each other. Right? I mean, that's all documented.
War. Well,
it's a manufactured war.
Which is most of them.
I've written pretty much all of them. Yeah. There are some exceptions. Yeah.
Is there a single major problem, ethically or otherwise, that ending the CIA wouldn't help with, at the very least, or eliminate entirely? I think that would be a great place to start.
You have to, okay, so there's three. So there's the Ptorian Problem, which is underlying, which is these financialists, right, that financialize the entire world. And they have their own religion, financialism. It's rather fascinating. And I've written on all this stuff, thought through it quite a bit. But you have the Praetorians behind everything. Out in front of that, making it all happen is their mob states. And when I say mob state, I mean that quite literally, the marriage of the mafia and state, governments. And then increasingly since the 1980s, we've had the Devil's Legion, which is, the Devil's Legions, which is this illicit funded paramilitary organizations that we call terrorist groups and organized crime. They're basically the same. One's ideologically bound, the other one's just pure economically bound, but they're both the same. But those are the off-the-books, self-funding paramilitaries of the mob state. And they, right now, one final piece, they bring in about $1.6 to $1.9 trillion in cash a year. That goes into the banks, that gets laundered in the banks, and that's what props up the entire illusion of an economy in the West, because that gets lent out at 10 to 20 to 1. That's $90 trillion to $200 trillion a year in artificial economics. So terribly sorry, but
no, that's I'm glad you said it, because what you're actually talking about is manufactured capturing of nations, from Sudan to Egypt to Syria to Libya to Iraq to Iran to, we place
Afghanistan.
those people in Afghanistan. I was a long time ago in a previous life, 15 years ago, I wrote a white paper of ethnic cleansing and genocide happening in Darfur. In Sudan. You had the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, you had the East Peace Agreement, and you had the Darfurian Peace Agreement, the three agreements that were signed by Colin Powell way back in the day in Nairobi, so years prior to that. That was facilitated by a woman named Susan Rice. And Susan Rice first went to President al-Bashir and said, hey, we want you to play ball. You have all of these minerals and rich resources in a place called the Abyei district, which sits between North and South Sudan. And if you play ball, everything will be great. Well, he said, get out of here. I don't need you. And so they manufactured a crisis and went up there and had the Darfurian rebel groups and Janjaweed and all these people, Libyan army and everything else, on a country that has 9 countries around it with open borders. And they manufactured something. And then the United States, the CIA, stood up this thing called Save Darfur with John Pendergast and John Norris. And you had Jeffrey Sachs at the Millennium Project that was all over Africa. And we're going to end hunger out of Columbia University, which is basically the bastion for the CIA. And I was screaming this from the highest rooftops that USAID was laundering money and stealing food product. And in the middle of all of that, they were just doing these privatized wars. That was back in 2009, 2010, 2011, right?
Yeah.
And I could see it with very, very easy eyes, and had a seat at some of these tables. And yet in the United States, they were all saying, oh yeah, we're saving black babies. And then you had Bill Gates that was over in Africa that was injecting entire villages and sterilizing man, women, and child, knocking out entire villages. Entire generations were knocked out like that with these, we're here to help you vaccines, right? So everything that you're saying is, I can't understand. Like, I haven't met anyone
for
that
1,000 years. By the way, this all goes back to Venice. When Constantine defeated the Praetorians at Milvian Bridge in 312, the survivors took their wealth and retreated to the lagoons of what would become Venice. And they've been rebuilding ever since. And now they control much of the world by destroying it, parasitizing upon it, building it up. And they go into a host, they occupy the host, which is a people, right? And they use up those people. They get them all enslaved in tax debt and wage slavery. And they use their young men to go enforce on debts and to steal assets until all the young men are gone and all the people have been so enslaved, there's no assets left. It's not that there's an assets, there isn't a functioning economy left and no chance to build one. And then they abandon that host, they collapse it, and then they abandon it and they go on another one. They went from Rome to Venice to Amsterdam to the city of London to New York to Wall Street, and we're trying to go to and now they're in the UAE, they're in the Islamic world, and the Islamic world is the new bully boys and armies, the manpower, the tens of millions of young Muslim men who can die around the world to go do the same thing that the English-speaking peoples and the European peoples have been doing since the 1600s, because we're all spent. There's nothing left. Now, we got enough to stand up and fight back, but will we do it without a Red Caesar? And do we have the wherewithal to get over this whole down with princes bullshit so that we could actually stand with a Red Caesar? Russia did. Caesar? China did. Persia did. That's why they have to be brought down. I don't know about Trump. He's got the capacity, but I don't know that it's the time. I don't think it might be, because things can change very suddenly. He's the one that's got the capacity. He's the only one that I can see right now who was born to this.
And nobody else behind him that I see.
And nobody else behind him
in the structure is going to be able to handle that baton.
And that's why they want to, that's why they want to wait him out. They want to dirty all this. They're just trying. So that's why I also think we're probably okay for the next 3 years, 2 years or so. Like, it's not going to go to blood. It might, because everything accelerates in these times, because nobody wants to move first, because then history blames them and they can get torn down afterwards. But nobody can afford to move second, because then you've allowed the enemy to choose the time and place and the nature of the conflict. So everything accelerates right before the end.
Yeah. Well, I want to have you back on, just have a conversation about what I know, what you know, because I think we could probably solve a lot of the world's problems. Matter of fact,
I don't know. I think some of the world's problems need freaking jet fuel and explosives poured on them. And are you familiar with the term a key log? Right? Key log. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah.
Right? There are some key logs. If we just went out, found the right ones and blew those up, the whole thing would start flowing again.
Well, if you start with the elections and the mail-in ballots and you get rid of that stuff and get to a place where you have transparency in the system, then you restore at least enough order that you can prolong the destruction, right? Because right now we're a captured nation at every level, and they can pick and choose elections across all 50 states.
There's one other piece we got to do. There's one other piece we got to do is we've got to defeat this Genius Act bullshit and tokenization of everything, because that's the final theft. The final theft is bringing 401ks into private equity, stealing all that wealth, and then tokenizing it so you can't by force recover it.
That's why we have to stop JD Vance, in my opinion, as eloquent as he is at talking, from being the nominee in 2028. I think he would usher in the ultimate age of techtospheric control, whatever it's called.
We're not going to, the tech control stuff, that's another cover for action is status. See, you can get only a certain percentage of people in discuss place around pedophilia. A lot of other people are just not going to believe it because it's so far out of their realm, or they just can't deal with that. So there's only a percentage, I don't know what it is, 20% maybe, that you're going to get discussed mechanisms triggered there. You can get vastly more discussed mechanisms triggered, though, by a totalitarian state. It's the same cover for action and status, though. The intent is to collapse it all. And they don't want to. And that's exactly what they're doing. This is step 7 in the Financialist kill chain. People can find it on my Twitter, right? But step 7 is collapse and abandonment. And they have to do that to lock in the steel. That always comes with a bloody fucking war. Again, excuse my language. Right.
If you want to follow Eric on Twitter, it is EM Burlingame, and you can find it. He posts about various trending topics. I saw some of your posts today about what happened to Hulk. Rest his soul. That was a very sad story today, but go follow Eric right now. And it was a pleasure having you on. We'll definitely have to have you back on again soon.
Pleasure, guys.
Eric, got you, brother. We're going to do this again.
Appreciate it.
I'll reach out to you. I know we have your stuff, and I'll reach out. We'll probably have a long conversation, and there's a lot to talk about, but thank you for coming on. I appreciate you.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Take care.
That guy, I mean, I thought having Michael on, but Eric is like next level, and not to take it away from Michael, because Michael is awesome too, but they're both Green Berets, and they're both highly intelligent. And by the way, all the guys that I know that are special forces, SF guys, they're all really smart, and they read a lot, and they have great internal acuity. Like they understand themselves. And that's,
Never mess with a white dude who has a Japanese painting in his home. You will be sorry you did.
I would agree with that.
Rule of thumb. Every time.
Yeah. So we got a couple of little things to go through, but before we do that, yesterday I got like 300 emails because Michael started talking about gold and silver and the fact that the Japanese cannot have gold and silver. They can't hold it. And our partnership with Goldco, and someone said, okay, so what if they take away our gold? Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, do not operate in fear. Goldco is a great partner for us. I'm a person that invests in it heavily. Okay. Spend a little bit of money, go to untamedgold.com, have them send you a packet. That's the first step. Now there's no obligation. You get 10% more silver when you go to buy it. You can see a video up there of either myself or Matt. It kind of switches between the two. And the one thing that I will tell you is that you have to have an opportunity. We're grateful that they actually are sponsoring us. We're grateful. Okay. But it's not hey, I'm going to buy gold today and it's going to make me 40% tomorrow. It is a hold process. For 2,000 years, people have been using gold and silver as a way to exchange currency. You have bullets, you have food, and you have precious metals, right? That's it. Everything else, will come and go. There was a salt empire there for a little bit, and then everyone figured out that if you add water to it, it goes away, right? So this is just something you'd have that you leverage a part of your portfolio. But do not think that they're going to take away gold from us. They may. They took it away from Japan. You actually cannot hold gold except for you pay a tax. You can't. I mean, there's a lot of things that they're doing in a lot of countries that they'll eventually bring to us. So it's just taking away, guns and your right to have the Second Amendment. They did it in Australia. They did it in the UK. They did it all over the world, right? And they are coming for your rights here. So, but go to Goldco at untamedgold.com or call 844-960-GOLD. And check them out. And we are grateful for the membership, for the relationship, and for the schooling that they've given me as well. So a lot of information there. All right.
Yeah, I saw a post today about silver and how it is not a lot of people are paying attention to the price of it, but a lot of people think it's going to do exactly what gold did and just take off. It's much, much, much easier to see that path than I think a lot of other financial assets.
Well, I got to tell you, I bought, what did I buy? 600 ounces of silver. That's what my big buy was this month. And I just wanted to have, and I like it. I like coins. I like silver. I like gold. I don't know why. It's just fun. It's like fun to have. So anyway, so it's, anybody says that, oh, you won't make any money. Yes, you will. Yes, you will. You'll make a bunch of it. But, and I don't believe that what Marion said was true, that I put all my money on gold and silver. Don't do that. But, she's done really well. She owns a farm. I think it's like 25,000 acres. So maybe she's smarter than I am, but, yeah, go check it out. Okay. Fauci should go to jail. Auto pen guy. He should be indicted, right?
I think it's about time. Why don't we play the clip?
What?
Even though he's pardoned, I mean, can you open that back up?
That's the real question. Is the pardon valid? Can an auto pen pardon someone? The court would have to decide this, but I think indicting Anthony Fauci would be something that's appropriate. But then I think the court would decide whether the pardon holds, and you'd probably have to interview people. Did the president really do the pardon? Or did a clerk, or was it Joe Biden's chief of staff who approved this? The person who was running the auto pen, I think they already have testimony saying he never talked to the president. So he's running the auto pen. I think there was thousands of pardons coming off of it, and he never discussed it.
I think a lot of people are going to start practicing pleading the fifth.
You need to plead a lot more in the fifth. You're going to need to plead, please don't put me in prison for all of my crimes. That's what you're going to have to plead. The fifth will only take you so far.
Well, the unfortunate part about what he's saying, and it's true. The guy that ran the auto pen said, I've never talked to the president. The president never came in here and told me to do anything. I just got it third hand. And no matter what you say about Biden, he was not in control of anything. There's no part. I can't imagine that a cognizant individual like Biden, who spent 50 years, would want his legacy defined by illegal gang members killing Americans, including children. Like I don't think that Joe Biden, this is not going to be a popular thing to say. I think the guy's an absolute dirtbag. Okay. Absolute dirtbag. But then I don't. See, years ago, if you go back 15 years, I remember, Matt, them saying that Joe Biden was one of the nicest men in Washington, but he was also one of the most brain dead men in Washington. That he was known for being super nice, but he was also dumber than a box of rocks. He was known as the stupidest man in Washington. Ask anybody. You can ask, matter of fact, I want you guys to do this. Say, was the joke in Washington on the Hill that the dumbest congressman in Washington was Joe Biden? And they will laugh about the fact that they would sit around and talk about how dumb of a man he was. But he was a nice man. And so nice men, even though they're stupid, Forrest Gump was like, Jenny. He wasn't the smartest guy in the world, but he had a good heart. I venture to say that if Joe Biden was not being controlled, he would not have, even him would have said, we cannot do this to Americans, right? Even him. I don't believe that he's of the right mind. And I'm not making excuses for him because I have the FJB on my Jeep package, right? But I just don't see it.
Yeah, so that's the best Jeep package. And that is also a good analogy. Joe Biden being the Forrest Gump of presidents, that's kind of perfect. Really, I'm surprised I haven't heard that more. It's especially with Tom Hanks being an extreme far leftist now, who fully supports that and also probably, based on some of his posts, does some things involving children that aren't so good. Yeah, we can go ahead and say that. That probably happens, and he should be investigated for it immediately. But I digress.
So we also have, there's some things, I'm not changing my position on what President Trump said. I think that he has gotten the message loud and clear from a lot of people that it is not about the victims anymore. They've been compensated to some part. It's not about Jeffrey Epstein. It is about the people being held accountable for their behavior for brutalizing children, okay, period, okay? But there was an Obama-appointed judge who blocked the unsealing of the grand jury. Obama-appointed judge Robin Rosenberg, oh my gosh, of the formerly atheist Jewish cult, just blocked the unsealing of grand jury testimony in the Epstein case. In 2023, when Marsha Blackburn tried to subpoena the Epstein flight logs, Democrats' Dick Durbin blocked it. For 4 years under the Biden, Democrats said and did nothing. Now they want to accuse Trump of a cover-up, but the Trump administration and GOP are the only ones taking action. Democrats have been blocking the truth for years. Years. And now you have that piece of trash, that pencil neck Adam Shifty Schiff saying, oh yeah, Trump was in their logs and they just don't want to release it because Trump's in it. And you know what he's talking to? He's talking to low IQ. People that actually would follow that guy, they're low IQ, kind of like Elizabeth Warren. Low IQ morons. Elizabeth Warren put out a tweet today. You know what it said? We can give the government, if we just stop the government, we can make people have better lives. And I'm like, shut the F up. You know what happened? She said that healthcare went up by 200% or so, 270% since 1990. And I'm like, you're a moron. It's gone up 2,000% since 1990. But do you know what happened in 1990 versus now? Do you know what was the same in 1990 that is the same right now? That sea lizard is still in office. And that sea lizard was in office in 1990. All the problems that we face today are because of the people that have been in office telling us they know how to fix it. And they have progressively made it well for themselves. $400 million of net worth on $172,000 in salary. But they're all the same. Now they're telling us they can fix the government. We're $37 trillion in debt. And we believe it. Low IQs believe it. And then they steal elections and stay away from elections and mail-in ballots and the things that really need to change in order to give people the Smith Modernization Act should be thrown out. The government should not be, if you're a sitting congresswoman, you should not be able to lie to the people. That's my stick. I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, I don't think there's as many smart people in Congress as a lot of people would hope to believe. Right. People are waking up to that now, but they're mostly, both of us have higher IQs by far than the average person in Congress. And so it's a little scary knowing that people who really aren't smart, I mean, even we don't fully understand everything. And the idea that people who have 100 negative IQs, under 100 IQs, like Rashida Tlaib and many Republicans as well, people like that are in charge of making the most important decisions for our country. I mean, you can be a good person and not have a high IQ. You can even be intelligent and not have a high IQ. But to process that much information that quickly and be able to make a smart decision on their side is extremely difficult. And yet those are the people that are tasked with doing it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And look, we have a couple things that I want to get out before we move on. The House subcommittee passed a motion to subpoena Clinton over Maxwell's connections. This is just in the news. This was kind of going through it. So they're going to go through and try to figure out how there's connection between Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton over their connections to the former Jeffrey Epstein associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. And also Senator Blumenthal statement on Ghislaine Maxwell made an I'm not even going to be the one to say it. Go ahead and play it.
We have besieged and written and urged the Department of Justice to come clean with the American people. And instead what's happening is one of the most corrupt misuses of power in the history of the Department of Justice. The Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, is about to go to a federal prison where Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted felon involved in the Epstein trafficking of children, is going to be interviewed by him. Now, keep in mind that no ordinary person could have their personal henchmen in the Department of Justice go to secure a cover-up as a result of that kind of secret meeting and secret deal, giving her potentially a pardon for providing information favorable to Trump.
That's how you know they're manipulating. It's an op. They had 4 years during the Biden administration. They had every ability to drop this information on Epstein if they thought it was even harmful to Trump, and they didn't. And you know why they didn't? And if the most thing you have is grab him by the pussy, if that's the biggest story you have, and some weird lady that is super in the back of a store 30 years ago said she was raped by Trump, she named her cat vagina and talked about rape being sexy, which, by the way, all of that was not allowed into the court case.
It wouldn't have mattered anyway. It was in New York. That's why I never have any ability, never give New York any ability to have any jurisdiction whatsoever over you, your finances, or your legal status. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Never go anywhere near that place.
All right. So let me, I'm not going to go through some of the other elements in the news right now. Matt, I'm sitting on one of the biggest stories ever to happen. And I want people to understand this is so big because it involves the Department of Justice. It involves the governor of Colorado. It involves the Attorney General, Phil Weiser of Colorado. It involves the Secretary of State, Jenna Griswold in Colorado. It involves every single one of the Supreme Court, Colorado Supreme Court justices, every one of them. It involves legislative leaders, bribery, mishandling of information, sexual favors, intimidation. This is the stuff that RICO acts are made of. And this is concrete proof. There's concrete proof that Jared Polis was involved in this. Now, why is this important? The Supreme Court of Colorado ruled 9-0. Or I'm sorry, no, it was 6-2, 6-3. That President Trump could not be on the ballot. Here's the bigger part of this. There is a DOJ attorney who is married to one of the Colorado Supreme Court justices in the state of Colorado. There is a massive cover-up. If you go to look up this case, it's under what's called, it's a sealed case. Unfortunately, now there are whistleblowers that are willing to speak about their story. This involves Jared Polis, every news agency, Kyle Clark, 9 News, 7 News, Denver Post, Colorado Politics, you name it. They all have been running cover for the judiciary, which is rotted to the core, and covering up for crimes. This is why the RICO Act was created. The Al Capone of your time is happening right here in Colorado. It is not just married with cartels. The legislative, the judicial, and the executive branch in the state of Colorado are 1,000% compromised. And they are working together in order to allow for these misgivings and these crimes to be committed by the judiciary of Colorado. And the media is responsible for it. The only organization in the state of Colorado, only one organization in the state of Colorado that has been talking about this from a news side is the Gazette, is the Denver Gazette. Other than that, there is not, and that, by the way, that's run by Anschutz, I do believe. There's not another organization that is talking about this. They have muzzled, put under seal, and not allowed anyone to talk about these crimes that were committed. And it dates all the way back to the chief judge of the Supreme Court of Colorado in Denver, Colorado. Now keep in mind, Marie Avery Moses, the attorney that was a family court attorney that was appointed by Jared Polis, which was put on my case with Eric Coomer. This goes really deep. Also know the Attorney General's office sent attorneys up to Mesa County to be used to go after Tina Peters with a judge called Judge Barrett. See, now is the time for it all to come out. Now is the time for it all to come out. This is not a small case. This is a case of how rotted to the core the Democrat Party is in Colorado, their influence with Jared Polis, what Jared Polis has done to threaten, intimidate, and go after individuals who would blow the whistle. There are specific people that have gone out there and have spoken about this widely and broadly. The facts of this case and what happened here are indisputable. And you can see the malice by Channel 9 News and Kyle Clark specifically, and the other news outlets that are not covering it. They have given it not 1 ounce of air. So much so that they ingratiate themselves with special awards, benefits, $120,000 grifting fee, another one for $150,000, one for $2.3 million. And the only thing that came out of any of this so far, this scandal that has gone on for years and is as deep as it goes. And by the way, I won't give up any of my sources. Just like I didn't give up the Antifa kid, just like I didn't give up the second source, I gave up no one. But I'm going to tell you right now, the state of Colorado is probably not unlike a lot of states like California and others that it's followed suit with. But these people are criminal, and the Department of Justice needs to do something about it. And the Department of Justice needs to step in and stop this cover-up, because it is, this right now, it should result in the arrest and indictment of the governor of Colorado, the attorney general of Colorado, the secretary of state of Colorado, justices in the Colorado Supreme Court, justices in the district courts of Colorado. It is that deep. It is so deep and so incestuous that people have stepped out and said, I can't have this with unclean hands. Now, I've just given you a bite at the apple, but I'm going to be doing some interviews. I'm going to have some information that we're going to push out. But the governor of Colorado, the attorney general of Colorado, the secretary of state of Colorado, judges in Colorado, they're all a part of it. It is the Al Capone criminal story of the entire country. It is what has sent governors of other states to prison, mayors to prison, only it is so deep and so wide, you cannot ignore this. So stay tuned for that, Matt. Are you there? Matt there?
I'm here, and that's going to be massive for one very big reason, and that they operate in the shadows. That's how they're able to get away with this. And the second you shine light on it, the second you start to show what they're doing and how they're doing it, they shriek in fear, because they know they cannot confront good people who understand exactly what is happening.
It is worse than what I just told you. It is worse. And I am going to start sharing information little by little on this over the next week. I have a meeting scheduled with someone that I'm going to be having a conversation with it. And how I got to the place where I got this information is I put 2 and 2 together. It is massive. Imagine the media under the RICO Act being in cahoots with legislative, executive, Polis, AG Weiser, and Jenna Griswold, all being a part of a group where you have the receipts and they're committing crimes. They're influencing public officials. They're firing people. They're giving bribes and contracts and raises and other people, other family members, jobs. Imagine judges deciding cases, standing in the way of cases for thousands of parents with children, standing in the way of them getting justice for their children. Imagine that happening deliberately by justices inside the Colorado district courts. Imagine having an absolute, this is true, having absolutely no regard for people inside of our own communities and are running a fraternity that services themselves, and then telling the media to cover up for it and not report on it. Please stay away from this. It is a conspiracy at a grand level. and Tina Peters is in jail in Colorado, and that grand level swallows up Dan Rubenstein, swallows up the attorneys that were put on this case, swallows up the investigators who called up Matt Crane and said, tell me how to debunk this stuff so I can go after Tina Peters, it swallows them all up. And now they're trying to hide it. The DOJ needs to investigate this. And frankly, I'm going to pick it apart until people start doing something to get with the DOJ. I know President Trump specifically wants Tina Peters out of jail. And this is this right here is the golden ticket to make sure that not only does that pressure happen so that happens, but that these people were held accountable for being criminals. These are criminals in positions of power and authority in the state of Colorado. Criminals. It's a criminal enterprise. This is Al Capone. This is what we're talking about.
Are we allowed to conduct a citizen's arrest? Are we at that point yet, Joe? Is that the time? Wouldn't that be fun?
If you knew what I know, you would be mortified. And look, I had to make sure that I built a record, and I'm now having conversations with other people, and I've asked for other people to just collectively come together and say, hey, let's talk about this. And I'm putting it out there now because now I feel absolutely in a place where I know when the DOJ finds out about not just the Colorado office and the Wyoming office and some of the other offices of the AUSA, that it's not even on the radar. They didn't even know about this. They didn't know about this because it's been hidden. I don't think Pam Bondi knew about this. I can promise you she didn't know about this, because if she did, she would have used this in order to leverage the fact that, hey, you let Tina out right now, because now you could go, all of you are complicit in the behavior. And that file that I have with, over 300 gigabytes of information, we're going to start to leak that over the next couple of weeks as well.
Absolutely massive. Everyone needs to be following right now. Click the notifications on. Follow Joe and myself on Twitter as well if you have not already. Joe needs an extra boost since they keep taking his followers away, especially. So go follow Joe.
Yeah, what is that all about? I was
on
at
X,
19.
but
they took how many total?
What's going on?
10,000. They took 10,000 from me. 10,800 or something. And then they've slowly been giving them back to me. I think I'm back to 13.5. Yeah, it's fine. And I still reach 4 million or 5 million people in a cycle. But it is weird that it's weird. It's weird. It's fine. I'm good. It's not a popularity contest for me. Last thing I will say is that Sharona Bishop, who is responsible for Tina Peters being in jail, who is the grifting Fed that's down in Texas, I got a video sent to me where she told people not to donate to Tina Peters, and the only person you should give money to is Mike Lindell. I don't care how you feel about Mike Lindell. You could think he is King Kong. When you say that Peter Tickton and the defense for Tina Peters does not need money, and you try to grift that away from her, we have the video. Can you play the video, please? Play the video. Actually, just if you don't play the video, play just the audio so people can hear what she has to say. Can we just do that? That's the one that's inside of the signal. Sharona Bishop, America's mom. Yeah, that one. The hairdresser turned election expert. And, oh man, I can't get any more mad than I am right now. Got up on stage and actually said, down in Texas, do not support Peter Tickton and do not support Tina Peters. That if you want to give money, only give money to Mike Lindell. Just audio. Go ahead and play. Matt, you didn't hear this yet. You got to hear this. Go ahead. This is Sharona Bishop.
I'm like, well, what's Antifa and BLM then? Oh my gosh. What's half of the Democrat Congress people? Like, holy cow. The violence of her speech, he had the audacity to compare her to actual violent criminals that have passed through his courtroom even in her sentencing, and said she was worse.
Talking about Tina.
It's just unbelievable. So that's what's happening right now. They wanted 3 weeks to review everything to make sure that jurisdictional issues had been addressed, that the state had had the opportunity to address every issue jurisdictionally, which they have not, by the way. They're trying to ignore this. They're trying to act like it's not going to happen, that she's not going to get out. But we believe she is, and President Trump is committed. He's keeping his word as well that she will be out. We just don't know when. So anybody lobbying for dollars and asking you for money, if it's not Mike Lindell, don't give it to him. Don't give it to him. Mr. Tickton does not need your money. Okay, don't give it to him. Patrick McSweeney is been an amazing force for Tina Peters as well, using every avenue, every facet that he has to fight.
How about that?
Doesn't surprise me at all.
I mean, how about that? Peter Tickton, by the way, is a long-term, and I'm not trying to create a fight between anyone. I promise you this, Sharona Bishop does not have the authority to tell anybody that the only person you give money to is Mike Lindell. Right? And I don't, Mike owes me money. We will actually litigate that. It's fine. I walked side by side with that man for 3 years. I know his foibles. I know a lot more about Mike than I have ever put out there. Right? And he has a lot of passion for this country. Great. The OPM, other people's money. Right? When you have the ability to support someone like Tina Peters, you don't stand on a stage and say, oh, by the way, Peter Tickton, he doesn't need your money. He has an organization. Tina Peters has tinapeters.us. You can go there, you can donate money and help Tina Peters. Not help some flamboyant, whatever you want to call this, of, we're doing all of these cases. I got to listen to the entire speech that she had up on it, and I'm mortified. I'm mortified. And by the way, I don't really care. Paper tiger? I'm not a paper tiger. Not a paper tiger. I want to stand up for the American people. I want to make sure that it's right for the American people. It pisses me off that in Colorado, it's nothing but just a bastion of criminals, a cartel of criminals, a fraternity of criminals. And that the DOJ hasn't come in and literally arrested all of them. It makes me mad. But at the same time, if you want to support someone, you want to support Tina, Peter Tickton could use your help. And that money does go to help Peter defend Tina. And Patrick McSweeney is not a lead attorney or a part of this entire deal. He wasn't here for the whole thing. He wasn't here for Tina's, for the hearing at all. Not a part of it. So there you go. I'm done.
Is it over? Okay. I guess, you know what I'll do? I'll go ahead and pray us out. Make sure that you are clicking the like button, be commenting. You can watch on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, BK Network. There's a lot of places to come into an end. So don't be afraid to be exploring those avenues a little bit. With that said, dear Lord, as we continue to see soldiers in Ukraine and even those who are brought into Ukraine from outside and in Russia and other parts of the world that are dying on a mass scale, and it seems like it's just all for nothing, and these lives are being lost and sent to you way too early. Allow those leaders in those regions to either be able to see a way to not do that anymore, have an out, or for people who are going to get that out to be put in those positions instead. I pray for my family and Joe's family and Eric's family, that we have prosperity and happiness and good times, as well as everyone watching, that maybe even with all the bad things happening in the world, we're still able to be optimistic and faithful and able to enjoy life like it was meant to be. Amen.
Amen. In Jesus' name, amen. We'll see you guys soon. This one went a little bit long, but it was worth it. Stay tuned for more to happen, because over the next, I'm gonna drop some stuff tomorrow. We'll drop some stuff the next day, and we're gonna continue to drop things and put out recordings from investigators and things like that tied to Tina. I'm gonna do everything I possibly can. The pressure should be on. The DOJ should be able to do what they need to do now. And finding out that this information was out there to this degree, I finally just said, okay, it's time to press the go button. It's time to give a voice to the voiceless and to stop this criminal enterprise in Colorado from existing. And that's what needs to happen.
Right now. Yep.
All right. God bless you.
God bless.